All right, hey guys, Renee Fouché, of course, and don't mind the crazy lookingness. It's like 1:40 in the morning. I'm already in my pajamas. My hair was already pulled back. Um, but I needed to shoot this video and try to get some ideas out of my brain. It's going way too fast for me to write everything down. So I don't really even know if this is a video that will end up going up. I may put it up, but this is more so to be able to capture some of the thoughts going through my head at 1:42 now in the morning. And I guess I'll tell y'all kind of what prompted this video. I came across a video. Ian Aileen. I don't know if I pronounce his name properly, but anyway, he is kind of like an expose reporter in Trinidad, and so he's always, going and he's like getting to the inside of things. I guess that's kind of his job, right? So he kind of goes and does this little expose interviews and such. When with all the craziness that's going on in Trinidad, it kind of hurts my heart. But it's the thing here, guys, is that it's really not. It's not just Trinidad. It's all over the place, right? I look at stories. Most of y'all know that I'm originally from Brooklyn, even though my family's from Trinidad. I was born in Brooklyn. And I watch some of the bullshit that's going on in Brooklyn. Children getting stabbed up and crazy stuff going on in the streets. And no matter what city you live in, um, there is sure to be similar stories that you can talk about. For the most part, I don't watch the news, so I miss out on a lot of those stories because I refuse to have my brain completely submerged in um, horrible nonsense, right? Because though there is a lot of negativity that's going on, the news kind of only shows you what they want to show you. And yeah, so I pretty much opt out of most of that. And so I don't get to see a lot of the stories of what's going on. I come across whatever I come across in social media. Um, but this particular story was about a guy. It's about a week ago as we're watching this now. I think it was last week. That this is just one of many, many stories, right? And in this particular story, the boy is like 20 years old. And this is all alleged because this is based off of the interview that he did right then. So nobody come and try to tell me how I accuse or any kind of nonsense like that, right? Let me fix my charger here. And basically, the 20-year-old was working and was approached by police who stood over him and shot him dead, right? So there's a lot of outrage going on with like police brutality, and police brutality is nothing new, but it doesn't make it any less, doesn't make it any less sickening to see these situations that come across, right? So people will be like, oh, it's just another story of police brutality. He's not the first person that has been, you know, beaten up or killed by police. Okay, I get it. Last week or something like that, I think my cousin had put up a story. This was another story in Trinidad, and you guys don't look at this video and be like, oh my gosh, Trinidad must be so horrible, because it's really a matter of perception. Because I can look at the Orlando news, the Miami news, Atlanta news, New York news, and we're gonna still see these kind of stories, right? Yet people live there just fine all the time. but it's important to kind of get an understanding of what the hell is really going on, right? So in this particular story, uh, two young boys um, that had been causing some trouble, right? Robbing people, holding them up, sticking them up. Um, they ended up, somebody, I guess they must have stuck up the wrong person. They robbed the wrong person, and the person came in their house and executed them, right? Close range, boom, boom, done. And I responded to it, and I was like, what can you really expect that this is what they're doing, what you thought was gonna happen, right? And I know my cousin kind of looked at it and she was like, I don't understand. How could people justify this and this and that and the other? I mean, hear what? I don't think it's right that, oh, the person came and shot them. But at the end of the day, we have to kind of look at what it is that's going on. When they looked at the story, it said that the mother, oh yeah, this is going to be a long one, guys. So the mother, the kids were kind of watching over themselves. Why? Because the mother was forced to work. She was working at a local grocery store, and she was working basically Sunday to Sunday to be able to um, make ends meet, right? Because obviously she has to pay for wherever she's living. She has to pay for food, lights, clothes, whatever else, toiletries. There's a lot that goes into, good night, baby. Love you. There's a lot that goes into taking care of a household, right? And when you're working at minimum wage, which is essentially what you're working at when you're working in a grocery for the most part, um, you're going to have to work and trade a lot of hours of your time to get what you need to cover those costs. And so essentially, as a single mother, she's there doing that for herself. The children are essentially running themselves, and they were robbing people, and so that is what brought the end of their life, right? Here's the thing, guys. It's time to start creating change. Back however many, it's not that many, maybe a generation or two ago, there were people here in the U.S. that stood up for the change that they thought was most important, right? So for them, the change that was most important was, equal rights, civil rights, what have you. We don't have to agree or disagree on what they thought were their, what was important. That's what they worked toward, and they stood up for it. However, we have now become a generation of people that just sit down for everything. Okay? And I think it's time that we really start looking at how it is that we can exact change in some of these communities. A lot of folks that are maybe watching this video, maybe you grew up in the suburbs and that's all you've ever known, and you only know about anything hood, I guess you could call it. But you only know about that through TV, right? Or movies or radio or whatever. And you don't really understand, right? And quite honestly, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that I had my grandmothers, okay? I'm so thankful that I have my grandmothers in my life when I was younger. Because regardless of the fact of where we lived, regardless of the fact of whether there was bullets flying outside or crack house on the corner. Um, they instilled, I don't know, they instilled something kind of different in me, right? And um, my parents always reposition me in other areas, right? So regardless of the fact of growing up in the hood, I got to see other things. I got to do other things. I got to experience other things. And I was taught to hold myself in a higher regard, right? And that's why I'm so thankful for my grandmothers, because I had young parents. And so it's not like, oh, they taught themselves that. That's what they were taught. And so that's what was taught to me. And when I look at what's going on in these communities, I always sit and think, like, what if they knew what I knew? What if they knew what I knew? What if they could really understand the laws of how the universe works? What if they understood what it was to have right thought? What if they realized that a lot of what's happening, my son is watching TV Saturday night, he's just running. He's he's reciting marketing. So it goes on in my house. Caleb, I'm shooting a video, babe. So what if they knew? What if they knew that it was the sum of all of their thoughts that was creating what was surrounding them? What if mothers knew how to teach their children, the laws of success, the laws of being powerful human beings? What if they knew, right? I really feel as though massive change has got to happen globally, right? And what's sad is that most people that try to bring about change eventually get removed. But I have to sit and ask myself, I was just telling my daughter today I want to live to 256 years old, right? But I have to think to myself, is it going to be a worthy life that I live 200 years if I stand up for nothing? If I don't take action to share what I know? If I don't reach out to help those that are hurting so badly? What would that 200 years be worth? We watch all of these videos and we see things on the news, and you scroll through social media and there's so much that we're numb. We just kind of take it. I see some of the stuff that goes on in Trinidad media and it disgusts me, right? Same Ian did a report the other day, and he was like in the morgue with these two young boys that got shot. Like, okay, sometimes, here's the thing. It's fantastic to be out there and, shedding light, right? It's fantastic to be shedding light. However, at the same time, you do not want to be filling the minds of your audience with constant negativity, horrible scenery, right? These stories that make them create more of the same and more of the same and more of the same. As I sit here right now and I think about what is it that it would take to bring about change, my mind is bubbling over. And I realize that that's what causes so many of us to sit back and do nothing, because we don't know what to do. Like, where do I start? What do I do to get what? How do you do that, right? How do I make a change when things are so massively wrong? And so, for the most part, we might share. For the most part, we scroll. And then we try to erase it from our mind. We might stand up in outrage, post comments of disgust. And then we go back to life as we know it. And life as we know it continues to unravel at the seams. So essentially, I'm looking for folks that are ready to create an impact, because there's a lot of people that I'm in the home-based business industry, right? And for the most part, we all talk about freedom. We all talk about wanting this level of freedom, and so we can change the world. And somehow the change of the world kind of falls to the wayside. We do impact change, right? Because I can help change one person's world. And of course, that's a change that I've made in the world. But only together, I believe, can we create massive change, right? Because maybe I want to share my gifts. And of course, at first, I'm going to go for home, right? So I'm going to want to initiate change in Brooklyn. It's my home. I'm going to want to initiate change in Florida. Consider that to be home. I'm going to want to initiate change in Trinidad, right? Trinidad is home. So I'm going to want to initiate change there. You're watching this video, and wherever you are, you're going to want to initiate change there, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, because if we're able to create a community that is dedicated to change. Awesome. Kimberly Tilly. Make sure you check her out on YouTube and on Facebook. I just see that she commented. Been kind of having a conversation. Yep, there goes my boy Angelo Gianni. Go ahead and find Angelo. Stephanie DiGiano. Make sure you find Stephanie, right? These are people that want to make change, right? But the problem is that people want to say, oh yeah, I want to make change, right? Maybe if you're like really popular, like the popular kids at the moment, you're going to have more people that say, yeah, they want to make change. And then you fuck up one time, and then they don't want to make change with you anymore, right? They're off making change with somebody else. But at the end of the day, I don't even care. I don't even care, because it's going to take a village, right? It's going to take women that can talk to the women in these communities, that can talk to the young girls and the young ladies that are coming up in these communities. It's going to take strong men that can connect with the men in these communities, that can connect with the young boys in these communities, right? Because we can say, all right, we're going to just focus on the kids, but then we have to remember that there's adults that are having influence on these kids. And so we have to be able to get into the minds of those adults that are the influence, right? We need to be able to educate, okay? So here's what I got, folks, and I'm going to run these things off my mind. Hopefully, Facebook doesn't distract me, right? We need people that can educate these communities on higher levels of thinking, right? Higher levels of thinking. We were all brought here, created here, built here to live a life of abundance. And when you are born into a life of lack, you may not realize that you're supposed to be living a life of abundance, right? You may not realize. We need people that can educate these communities on higher learning. We need people that can teach a multitude of skills in these communities. We need mentors in each and every field of entrepreneurship. Okay? We need these kids to understand that they have a gift. So often they're pushed into these schools and they're kind of left to their own devices because their parents are so busy trying to make just the minimum to cover whatever they got going on at home. Rent, lights, electricity, water, food. It's a lot, right? So as a parent, I go through it. There's sometimes that I'm working 10 hours a day and I got to stop and think, what have my kids been doing for those 10 hours, right? We have to be able to develop a community of support, right? Develop ways in which we can teach these children how they can step into their purpose, how they can develop their own individual gifts so that they too can give back and sow back into the community for the generation that comes behind them, right? We absolutely have to teach these communities how to become self-sufficient, right? How to obtain ownership so that they are no longer a slave to their job, a slave to their life, where they're living just to exist instead of existing to live. Right? We need to be able to share knowledge in these communities. Whether we're doing it online, whether we're doing it offline, whether we're reaching out grassroots. Right? I don't have all the answers. Right? That's why I'm reaching out to you. I got some of the answers. I can only answer in my own gift, in my own gifting, right? You have your own gift that you can contribute, right? And all of us working together. I listened to one of the lost, I guess I would say lost, but it was a recording of a call that Tupac did prior to his death. And he spoke about his vision, creating sports leagues in the hood where the different rappers were coming and everybody was putting their money up, right? People talk a lot of shit and they say, oh, yeah, that's all you talk about is money. But guess what? If I don't have any money, how can I help anybody else? I'll be so busy trying to dig out my own grave, trying to help myself, right? But when you pull your resources together and put the egos to the side, we're then able to actually walk in our own purpose, right? And share our own gifts and teach others how to do the same. People don't know what you know. They don't know what you know until you share it with them. So this message is like 30 minutes long, right? There's a lot of things that we need to get going in our communities, right? We need to learn how to build communities, and we also need to learn how to rebuild them. Okay? My neighborhood where I grew up in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn has been very much rebuilt. Very much rebuilt. But it wasn't rebuilt from the inside out. It was rebuilt from the outside in. Right? Nobody came in trying to help and fix what was there. They came and pushed out what was there and rebuilt from the outside in. So much bigger than that. It's so much bigger. It's time. It's time for us to join together and put our heads together and come up with a clear plan, right? Come up with a plan. And then execute. Take action. Because guess what? We could talk all we want to talk. I could shoot these videos all day long. Hair looking crazy in my pajamas. I could do that. But at the end of the day, if I don't take action, it's just lip service. Right? It's just lip service. So, please, from me to you, it's time to step it up. It's time. The only question is, you ready or not? Comment below, inbox me, reach out. Let's do this, right? Let's do it. The truth of the matter is, I don't really give a shit who does it, who doesn't do it, because I know in my own conversations with my Creator that this is what I'm supposed to do. You only know what you're supposed to do. What's your gift? What's your purpose? Let's bring it together. All right? Together we can achieve so much more. All right, so long video. I don't care. We need to do this, guys. Through sports, through activities, through workshops, through trainings, through mentorships. It's time to build and rebuild from the inside out. There are too many families hurting. There's too many families hurting. And I believe it's because they don't know what we know. So what are we holding back on?